Hello everyone, I am Surya Badrinath from M.Pharm Pharmaceutics of MIT Institute of Pharmacy. Today I would like to discuss the topic Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, that is Hipaa, its new requirements for the clinical trials. The contents in this PPT are Introduction, Pre-Research Review of Medical Records, Recruitment, Enrollment and Conduct of Study, Publication and Presentation of the Results. What is Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act? This was first introduced in the year 1996 in the month of August in the date of 21. This act is also called Kennedy-Casaubon Act, and this is signed by then President Bill Clinton of USA. It modernized the flow of healthcare information and stipulates how personally identified information is maintained by healthcare and health insurance industries should be protected from fraud and theft, and addresses some limitations on the health insurance coverage too. The introduction of to this is the Federal Medical Privacy Rule, authorized by the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, that is HIPAA. It limits how the physicians or healthcare providers may use the data of patients, or in other terms, disclose protected health information for any purpose. The privacy rule is complex, especially as applied to research. Like in academic medical centers have detailed policies and procedures in place to ensure that the faculty research meets the rule requirements. By comparison, community and unaffiliated with AMCs may have a fewer component resources. Coming to the next slide, pre-research review of the medical records. In this, a prospective sponsor may request any summary information about physician's patients to establish whether the physician's practice is viable site for the clinical trial or not. The privacy rule permits the physician to review his or her medical records for this pre-research, provided that no PHI is disclosed to the sponsor. If a third party, such as contract research organization, will review these medical building records for this purpose, the review must occur at the practice and the physician must be showing these following representations: the use or the disclosure solely to prevent the review PHI, as necessary to prepare a research protocol for similar purposes preparatory to research. There are totally three main considerations that should be taken while discussing about HIPAA. The first one is no PHI will be removed from the covered entity during the review. That means the protected health information will not be removed from the covered entity. That means it remains confidential during all the review time. The second one is that PHI that the researcher or the CRO seeks to review is necessary for the purposes of the review. And to document HIPAA compliance, the physician should ask the third party to provide these representations in writing. Coming to the next slide, that is recruitment of HIPAA. Going into the recruitment of HIPAA, the privacy permits a physician to recruit her own patients by, for example, by sending a letter to the patients potentially eligible to enroll in a clinical trial. For example, let us say I am a doctor and I know a patient who is very eligible for a drug I am testing. And then what I can do as a researcher is that I can send a letter to the patient who is potentially eligible to enroll in this clinical trial by discussing this enrollment during an office visit which is official. If a CRO, that is contract research organization, wants to recruit any patient, as a CRO doesn't have any prior scientific knowledge, then the study principal investigator should seek a partial waiver of HIPAA authorization from the Institutional Review Board, that is IRB, which are stated below. The privacy rule waiver criteria are found 45 CFR 164.512. This waiver, if at all granted to the CRO, will apply to the CRO's use of PHI in the recruitment of any patient they like. Written Hipaa authorization and information consent will be still required to enroll a patient in the actual clinical trial. Coming to the next slide. Enrollment and conduct of the study. A physician should generally must obtain written Hipaa authorization to enroll any patient. Though a research sponsor may provide template consent form, typically the research site, which is covered entity, which is confidential, must supply the Hipaa authorization. A Hipaa research authorization must contain all the elements of valid information, like general Hipaa authorization. Unlike a general Hipaa authorization, however, a Hipaa research authorization may have an expiry date of none. That means whenever a research is going to be prolonged and an expiry date is not needed, then the expiry date will be set as none. The physician may require patients who want to participate to sign the research authorization. The research authorization must indicate whether the patient's right to access the research information entered in the medical bill or billing records will be suspended until the study ends. It means until the study ends, if at all a physician requires a patient who wants to participate, they should indicate what information is able to be accessible to everyone. Every HIPAA authorization must also tell a patient how they can revoke this authorization. Let us say a patient is going to join a cancer research, then this patient should be completely told how or when he can revoke from the studies whenever he feels like it's not right for him or he doesn't feel like he doesn't need this. So all the rights and laws say that through HIPAA, a patient must be known how he can revoke from these studies. Publication or presentation of the results. HIPAA continues to apply when the results of the clinical trials are published or presented to an audience. Physicians whose publications or presentations will contain patient level data should determine whether 18 HIPAA identifiers have been removed. To explain these sentences clearly, even though when the results of HIPAA are being published, the rules will still apply and an institutional review board always takes care of these rules. Coming to the second line, let us say a physician wants to represent this clinical trial data even though when the study is going on or public health information, protected health information is still there, then he needs to take out or remove all the 18 HIPAA identifiers from the presentation or the research that are they are going to produce. They should not be combined with any public information like name or other things. A public information should not be combined with the HIPAA information which is protected by the HIPAA. This is a typical HIPAA disclosure form which includes date, the patient stating that it is being done on his consent given, an authorization and disclosure of the form and the purpose. There are so many HIPAA disclosure forms which can be made on the format of depending on the study or of the hospital. These are the references that I have used. One is the original HIPAA site, that is nih.gov, and HIPAA compliance in the clinical trials, that is from PubMed Central, and Health Insurance Probability and Accountability Act of Wikipedia, which is also a good website. Thank you. This is Surya Badrinath from M.Pharm Pharmaceuticals. Thank you.